Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here at the Fit Lawyer Pod. I am your host, Fit Lawyer Julia, and today we have a very special guest. I know I say that a lot, but that's because they really are. I think every single one of my guests are so special because I know each of them so personally. Um, but Cass is someone I met a few years ago at a women's Bible study. I was at a very low point in my life. We will discuss that in the episode. But also the fact that it was at a gym and it was a women's only Bible study helped me feel like really safe to go and explore my faith. That is something that I don't talk about a lot, and it's something that I've kind of dipped in and out of. I went to um, like summer Bible camps as a kid, just because the neighborhood kids went there and like my friends went there, so I wanted to go too. More just for fun than to really learn about Jesus. I've always felt like there was a higher being, a God and stuff, but never really went to church, didn't really pray, um, pretty much didn't read the Bible much or at all. So, I met Cass through that group. And then when we stopped meeting for this women's Bible study, she let me know of another Bible study group that was forming at someone's home. I knew a couple girls from the women's Bible study group that also goes to this one. So, I went and, we'll discuss that in the episode that, it was co-ed and it was kind of intimidating at first, but it just grew. And now, they've started a church together and I obviously go to their church uh, services as well. So, it's just a community that I feel really proud of. I feel good about growing my faith. I really like this community. And, something that I don't always share is that, I do have a very tumultuous relationship with my dad. He immigrated here when I was very young, and when I got here, he just was not the dad that I kind of imagined when I was in China. I witnessed a lot of domestic violence growing up, and we actually did not communicate for about 7 years in my adulthood. We actually just reconnected earlier this year. So, one thing that I'm super appreciative of is I feel like for me, growing and connecting with my Heavenly Father kind of helps me reconnect with my biological father. And, I only have one of each, and my dad isn't getting any younger. So, I had the opportunity to go out to Florida twice this year to go see him. And my mom was there too. We're so dysfunctional. But it is what it is. They're my parents, and I want to build my relationship with God. I want to build my relationship with my parents, and Cas and home church has really just been such a integral part of that. Um, and Cass talks about her being a preacher's daughter, her upbringing, her her hiatus from the church and refinding her faith, as well as how it's affected her relationship with her husband, their marriage, just overall so open and transparent about her walk of faith. And I'm very excited for this episode, and I'm also very nervous. I think it's gonna be my most vulnerable episode to date. So without further ado, Here is Cassandra.
Cool.
Hi, Cass.
Hello.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to come on my podcast. Welcome to the Fit Lawyer Pod.
Love being here.
Thank you. Um, so yeah, like I introduced earlier, Cass and I met well, maybe like two years ago at Jess's Bible study at TG. And then some stuff happened and we couldn't have Bible study there anymore. So then we did it on Zoom. And then I think that kind of just, I don't know what happened, but yeah. And then, but we all stay in touch with the help of Instagram.
Yeah.
And from there, from there, Cass let me know of home church. Before it was home church, it was a Bible study group at Pastor's house. Um, and so Cass is, something I don't talk about a lot is like my faith and my religion. I feel like I've always kind of like dabbled in and out. But, after meeting Cass and being, kind of just feeling, feeling very, what's the word I would say? I guess just at home, like comfortable and fit in with like this group, and it's just been so empowering. So thank you, so much for that, Cass. That's something, you and I have talked off camera as well. Um, so yeah, so Cass, tell us a little bit about your faith journey.
Okay. So my parents were raised Catholic. Um, and when my mom was pregnant with me, my dad kind of steered away from the Catholic faith into the Christian faith because he went to a Christian church and he sat down and I guess that day they were talking about the differences between like Catholicism and Christianity, and my dad being
You're a little muffled.
oh, can you hear me?
I can, but you're a little muffled. You were okay before. I don't know what happened.
Oh, I don't know. The Wi-Fi seems pretty good here, so I'm not
Oh,
sure.
when you lean in like that, it's good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So, um, like just to sum up what I just said, my dad was raised Catholic. He went to a Christian church, and ironically, that day they were kind of talking about the differences. And my dad, growing up super Catholic, got offended and got up during service and walked out. And he said that a voice in his head told him to go sit back down. So he was like, okay. So he's heated and offended, and he goes sits back down. And I guess the pastor had said like, hey, but don't take my word for it. Go and study for yourself. And so my dad was like, okay, I like that. He's not saying like what I'm saying is the end all be all. He wants us to study for ourselves. So when I was born, they went from being Catholic to Christian. So I was born Christian. I was baptized as a baby. My dad was always an elder in the church. Later, he became a pastor of his own church. I went to private school, Christian school. We grew up actually a Seventh Day Adventist. A lot of people are not familiar with that, but basically, we observe Saturday as the Sabbath. It's the holy day, it's the seventh day. So in the Bible, it says on the seventh day God rested. So we, as Seventh Day Adventists, observe Saturday because on the calendar, Sunday's the first day of the week. So we observe something called the Sabbath, which means from Friday night the sun goes down to Sunday night the sun goes down. We wouldn't like buy or sell. We wouldn't go shopping. We wouldn't like watch TV or listen to like, I don't know, secular radio music. And the whole purpose was just to spend time in nature with God and with your family. So growing up, that was kind of hard for people who weren't at the Christian academy that I was at because I also had friends and cousins who didn't observe the Sabbath. So although I was very fortunate to grow up in faith, everyone's like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You've always been in the faith, and you're a pastor's kid, and you went to a private school, and you had both of your parents, and they were married." It also, I don't think like it. It's there was another side to it. I felt like many times I was outcasted because I observe the Sabbath, and they're like, that's weird. Why can't you do anything? So I couldn't like go
Yeah.
to parties. I couldn't take like extracurriculars like karate or like anything with ballet, anything I wanted to get involved in because everything was held on Saturdays.
Okay.
So
So
yeah, go ahead.
I do want to backtrack a little bit. You say your parents grew up Catholic and then
Yeah,
they, what is it, converted to
yeah, they converted.
Christianity. And so you were born a Christian and that's what you've always practiced with the Seventh Day
Yes,
Adventist. Okay.
yes.
Um, you say that day when your dad went to uh they were talking about the differences. So what is the difference between like Catholicism and Christianity?
So as far as my knowledge, I'm not a theologian. That's more of my dad's realm. But
Okay.
we just practice different like worshiping. So in the I know that in Catholicism they put a heavy emphasis on praying to saints, like different
Oh,
saints,
okay.
and also praying to the Virgin Mary. And as a Seventh Day Adventist, we acknowledge that there were, disciples and apostles that were
Hmm.
sent by God. And we do acknowledge Mary as the mother of Jesus, but we don't pray to them. We only pray to
Okay.
Jesus. Um, and it's a set of different things. There's a process that you have to go through in Catholicism where you go to like your first communion and there's these steps that you take in order to be communed. Um, we don't necessarily do that in Christianity. We just kind of believe on a walk of faith, not like faith by work. Like we don't have
Okay.
to earn our salvation. Um, it's given freely to us because Jesus died on the cross for us. So when he did that, it was kind of like that was our like ticket, if you will. Like here you go.
Okay.
Like I've already
So
done for you.
so Catholicism definitely seems like much more formal, because I spent some time in South America. And South America, I think, is still very, very Catholic.
Um,
Like you say, they have the different saints, and there's like San whatever and the Santa for the female saints. So that
mhm.
makes sense because so many cities are named after different saints and stuff.
Yeah. Huh?
So that makes sense. And even here in California, we have San Diego, which is, the
Yeah.
saint named Diego, and
Yeah.
Santa Clara, I'm guessing, was a female saint named Clara.
Yeah. And
Okay.
my husband's name is Anthony, so there's also like a Saint Anthony. So we always like, where it's like, oh, Saint Anthony. Uh,
Yeah, that's cute.
yeah. And then
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense.
there's like a couple of differences, but also I know that in Catholicism there's a heavy emphasis on like going to um, ask for forgiveness from priests, and we believe that the only person that can forgive us is God. So we don't go to another man who was born in sin or woman.
Hmm.
But I always like to lead with this that like it's not really about the religion. Like Catholics are not wrong, like Lutherans are not wrong, like food, like everybody has what they believe in. I think the emphasis, and I'll probably touch on this later for new believers that are trying to get into some kind of faith. It's not about the religion really, because there's going to be Catholics in heaven, there's going to be Lutherans in heaven, there's going to be Christians in heaven, Buddhists in heaven. There's going to be like just people who of all walks of faith. I think the emphasis is more so on your relationship with God, because at the end of the day, only God can judge us. So I always like to lead, like, I don't really like the term religion or religious, because it's about your relationship and your walk with God, and not so much like what you practice as a part of the religious like umbrella.
I think that's so beautifully said.
Yeah.
Um, yes, because I think, like you said, there's people who also pervert the word of the Bible, and
All religion.
different
Yeah.
cult leaders as well.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I think that's very beautifully said, and I absolutely agree with that. And like I said earlier, I'd like kind of dabble in and out of my faith. My first boyfriend in high school, his family was very religious. He was homeschooled. They went to church on Sunday. They had Bible study, like youth studies as well. And so that's when, I started, the more we hung out, I would start going to, oh, your cat's so cute.
My
A little cameo. So I really explored Christianity with him. And then, I guess before that, it was, when I lived in the Bay Area, I went to school with some kids who were Christians, and in the summer, my parents was working, and so it was either like a babysitter or go to like a summer camp. And so because I had friends who were Christians, I went to like their summer church camp. It just
Mhm.
felt more fun than like the school one because I had different
Yeah.
activities and
Yeah.
like songs and dances. And I think because China's not religious, and I did
Yeah.
not grow up religious. My parents did not pray or believe in any of that, obviously. So I
Mhm.
think even at a very young age, I was really curious about religion, the summer church groups, and then high school. And then when we separated, I went off to college and did my very college things,
Yeah.
which were not.
I did too. I did very college things too. So
Yeah, so let's talk about that if you're comfortable. So
yeah.
you grew up very religious, pastor's daughter, um, and then obviously, you had your high school days and college days.
Mhm.
And how was that? Yeah,
Navigating it was weird because
yeah.
um I feel like in the Bible, my parents always in the Bible there's a verse that says like raise up your children, like instruct them how you want them to go, and then like they'll never veer from it. Like it'll always be
Hmm.
in the back of their head. Like and we all
Hmm.
know from our own like walks in life that like what we've seen and what we were used to and what we heard and we model things of our family, it sticks with us, right? And it kind of
Yeah.
creates who we are. So I feel like as a person who was raised in faith, as much as I like veered from it and partied, and there was a point where I stopped going to church for 2 years, and I kind of just did my own thing because I was 22 and I'm partying downtown, drinking, smoking weed, doing like a whole bunch of stuff, and I think that it got old like after a while,
Yeah.
and I just always felt like no matter how much fun I had, like kicking my ass in the club, or it didn't matter like who, like what guys I was talking to, or what friends I had. I always felt like there was like something missing. Like nothing ever kept me like feeling full. Like I always just felt like
Hmm.
something was missing during that time when I decided to veer from faith. And I want to start by saying like just because someone says like I believe in God or someone says like I'm Catholic or I'm Christian doesn't mean that they practice that
Right.
faith. So I felt
Right.
like for many years I was a what they call like a not a seasoned Christian. I was just like here like yeah I'm Christian, yeah I believe in God, and wear little cross,
Yeah.
and I didn't really fully understand what walking with God really meant until I experienced life, and I
Hmm.
experienced heartbreak, and I experienced loss, and I experienced struggles, and it wasn't until then when I really had to come back to the faith. And I remember in college I questioned my dad all the time, like, is there really a God? Like, are there aliens? Like, how do you understand? What if God's a woman? Like, as a Christian faith and going to vacation Bible schools and Christian schools and like memorizing the Ten Commandments and everything, I still had all these doubts. Like, what if he's not real? I can't see him. I can't hear him. I can't.
Yeah.
Um, and my dad said it's because you're not being still and you're not inviting him into your heart. You're not
Oh,
really having
wow.
a relationship with God. You pray at the beginning of your day and at the end of the day, but they always say like you talking to God is when you pray, and then when you read the Bible is how He speaks back to you. So I was like, okay, well, my dad's like, well, if you don't believe in God, like test him. God is always up for a challenge, and I'm like, okay, I'm up for a challenge. To see if this dude is real, like.
Yeah.
And so I remember I did a test and I said, okay, 1 week I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to party. I'm going to drink. I'm going to listen to like secular music. I'm going to listen to like foul music. I'm just going to do whatever I want. And I remember like just having the worst week of what my life at that point as like a 21-year-old. Whatever you think could be like the worst week as a 21-year-old. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
find any parking at school. I like me and my boyfriend were fighting, like on the verge of breaking up.
Like all the first world problems in one
Yeah,
week.
yeah, like my Wi-Fi wasn't working, like just little things. And I was okay. Like maybe it's just like beginner bad luck. Like, you know, maybe it's just in my head. But then I was like, okay, this next week I'm gonna try to do everything I grew up with doing, like reading my Bible, doing my devotionals, praying. And it was so funny because it was like night and day between the 2 weeks. And like, I don't know, call it like it's in my head, but I remember specifically Grossmont. I went to Grossmont College, and the parking was crazy. There was never parking when I needed to be in class, which was 8 a.m. because everybody's parking in class. And it was for a whole 5 days. People were in the parking lot zooming, trying to find, and there was this one parking spot in the front, like in the front of the campus. I didn't have to walk, and for 5 days in a row, it was open.
That's wild.
And I'm like, ain't no way 5 days it's gonna be open.
The same spot. The exact same spot.
And
that's
there
wild.
Zooming in like the parking lot. You know, you've been to a college campus.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, ain't no way. So I kind of did my own little test. I did a little test for myself, and I felt like, okay, like that was enough for me. Like I was like, life just seemed a lot more hopeful and better when I believed that there was someone higher than me that could help me with all the things that we don't talk about.
Yeah. So just to backtrack a little bit, when did you veer off from your faith for those 2 years that you were on hiatus? So when was that, and kind of what led you to do that, or why did you kind of take that hiatus?
It was after high school. I was at Grossmont. It was when I was 19. I had a boyfriend in high school. We had gone to school together, K through 12. Like I was obsessed.
Oh, wow.
And we started dating my senior year. We dated for a couple years, but it was basically when he broke up with me, and I just went crazy. I called like the funnest party friend that I had, and I was like, you know, I just got in a breakup. Let's go out. Let's party. Let's rage, because I don't want to. What people do, you know, when they're young.
Yeah.
And I just started partying, and like I was always hungover, so I couldn't make it to church. So I just kept up this pattern for like a couple of years, and I felt like because we had gone to school K through 12 with each other, me and my boyfriend at the time, all of our families and all his families were at the churches that we were going to. So I knew I would have to see him. I would have to see his whole family.
Oh,
and so I kind of just like was like, I'm gonna just avoid this place, and kind of just and I was having fun. I was partying. I was meeting new people. I was in the cool scene, and I just felt like at the time that's what satisfied me until like it didn't anymore.
And how did your parents take your hiatus? Did they know you were out like partying and stuff?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. My dad thought I was just like the black sheep. Like at the time, he was really strict growing up as far as like faith, because you know he had been away, and then he went extreme, like full on, like whatever the Bible said. Like I couldn't wear makeup, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. I would have to listen to my own music in my headphones. Like it was just very strict, and so he was really mad, and he would come in my room every single weekend and would be like, "Are you hungover again?" And like he would call me like a heathen, and he's like, "Oh, you have time to party with your friends, but you don't."
You were still living at home while you were partying and shit.
Yes.
Oh, that's wild. So they knew. So they definitely knew.
Yeah, they definitely knew.
Oh, shit.
In like in my short dress, like, and I started getting tattoos and piercings, and my dad had always raised me like no tattoos, like
I was gonna ask about that too.
I have like 13 tattoos, so they kind of gave up after the fourth one, but my dad was really, really, mad, because I know that he prayed real hard and tried real hard to keep us in the faith, and like he just couldn't control me after 18 years old, and my mom was just kind of like, well, either that's what she's 18, she's gonna do what she wants to do, as long as she's like still keeping her job, she's still going to school, like you can't really force her unless you're gonna kick her out. And he wasn't gonna kick me out, so he kind of just had to deal with my crap for like 2 years, and he would come in and he would make me feel bad, and he would like judge me in a sense, and he'd be like, "Oh, you're so embarrassing," like, and then funny enough, I started quoting scripture back to him, like,
Oh,
yeah, I was like dumping him because I was raised in the faith, so all these things that he had taught me, like, thou shalt not judge, no sinner can judge another sinner. The only person who I need to answer to is God at the end of the day. Like, it's about my walk with Jesus, not like what
yeah.
you think of me. It's what God thinks of me, and like, it's none of your business. Like, this is my journey with God. And after a while, he couldn't say anything, and my mom would be busting up. She's like, "Well, that's what happened." Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And I met your mom. She's so cute.
Oh my, that girl's ghetto like me. So. My parents are
Well,
probably kind of hood.
yeah, well, I met her at church, and I think you told her I was a little nervous being up front that day, so I think she was in very much mommy mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so you talked about, you being like the black sheep. So how many siblings do you have, and what are their relationship with their faith?
It's only my sister and I. We went to a private school, so my mom would have had more, but it was really expensive at another private school.
Yeah.
And so my mom kind of stopped there. But my sister, I would say my sister like was a little bit more mischievous than me. I was like, it is what it is. I'm going to party. Where I'm going to be. Like, I'm going to be drinking. I was really.
Yeah. Are you the older or the younger one?
I'm the oldest, so my sister kind of kicked back, and like she was sneaky, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
But like I was the one always getting in trouble, so the spotlight was always on me. So she got to do whatever she wanted sneakily because I was always in the spotlight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an only child, so I don't know, but I think parents are stricter on the older one because it's like the firstborn, and then they expect you to be an example for your younger siblings too.
Yeah, and I think my sister was really like, I don't know, my sister's like the quiet one, and you know what they say with the quiet one, it's like I'm the loud one, so it's like I can't with anything, but my sister and my dad were pretty close growing up, and like even now she still has her faith with God. Just like me, she's had her times where like she's fallen off, but I think she's a little bit like she's really like involved. Like she would do conferences and Bible studies, and like serving for church, and she did missionary work in like Hawaii, and she's a lot more active in the church than I ever was. And so as my little sister, she had to be like, to come to this and you need to do this, and I'm like, I don't need to do anything. I need to work on my relationship with God, and you worry about your relationship with God.
Yeah.
So she's very much not a Bible temper, but she's strong in her faith, and it's admirable because a lot of people aren't, are scared to do.
Yeah. Nice. That's really cool. And then you said, your little week experiment. And then was that kind of when you started going back and kind of refinding your faith and reconnecting with it?
Yeah, I would reconnect, and I would go, and I called myself like a Sunday worshiper, but then I didn't really truly understand still because I was young and immature, like what it really meant to be transformed by God, in my heart.
Yeah.
So I felt like I would go to church on Sunday. I would still be out on Saturday. I would pray in the morning, pray at night, and I would still be doing my thing during the day, and not really exuding the like fruits of the spirit, like loving others.
Yeah.
I was young-minded, so I was just like, I don't like you, and I don't like you, and gossiping, and all the natural human things that we do. But I want to say like it wasn't until about I want to say like 28 or 29 when I was like, okay, like something's got to change. And then I think I really started getting into my faith within the last 3 years. I'm 33, so I felt like in 30 I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 30, and like I'm still doing the same stuff mentally. So I knew that like I needed to dive deeper into like what my faith really meant to me.
And then so we oh, excuse me. So I think we met, like I said earlier, around 2 years ago.
Mhm.
at Jess's Bible study. Where were you in your faith at that time?
I was, I think I was like desperate at this point.
Okay.
Like I said, I would go to the gym and then I would see like these women meeting, and I was like, I didn't know Jess at the time, and I was like,
Oh,
like, what is this? And so I think
yeah.
I only met Jess a little bit before I met you,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I found out through like Miriam, my
Yes.
Miriam,
Yes, I know
that
Miriam.
that it was a Bible study, and I was like, yo, I've been like, I was praying for community, and like, I wanted to be more open with my faith because it is scary. Like, I
Yeah.
had from when I was younger, when I would try to be on fire for God, and all the kids thought I was like the weird Jesus kid. So I have my
Yeah.
own drama with that. So I was just praying for community, and then I was like, dude, this is like sick. I was like, never, like, you don't go to gyms and see them having Bible study. Like, it's just
Right.
not something, like, you don't see anyone having Bible study anywhere. It's usually in a house or in a church or in a environment
Yes.
friendly, appropriate setting. And so when I was like, what? Like Jesus and fitness, which are my two passions in life, collide. I was like, heck yes, like sign me up. So I was super excited about that, and I was comfortable because it's all women, and I had been praying because I, as you know, I'm a personal trainer, and I was asking God like, how can I mesh mesh my two passions? Like, I want to be on fire for God, and I want to help women with their confidence and body. And I was like, how can I
Hmm.
join this? So that's when I found the Bible study.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
prayer.
I know just through bodybuilding. I we just knew like, the same gym, the same people. And then so she invited me to that at also like a really desperate time. I felt like she was just Captain Save a Hoe at that time because she
Yeah,
definitely saved this hoe for
you saved all of
sure.
us.
Because me and my partner at that time were definitely going through it, and I remember very clearly just one day in the on the floor of my bathroom just bawling, and I was like, God, I don't know if you're real, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you are, like, I need you, I need you. And
I feel
then I think maybe like the next week, she just texted me, was like, hey, like, do you want to come to Bible study? I was like, where is it? She was like, it's at TG in Chula Vista. And I'm like, it's all the way down Chula Vista, which really isn't even that far. It's like 10 miles south of me. I'm in North Park. But
yeah,
I feel like I just stay in my little bubble. Like my gym is 2 blocks down. And I was just like, and I was like, no, like you literally got on your knees bawling, saying like, like, if you can hear me, like, I need you. And like, this is, and she was like, it's kind of like the same thing. She's like, it's at TG and it's just, females only, like it's a women's Bible study group. And I was like, okay, like, if anything, I was still kind of a little stubborn. I was like, if anything, I'll just use it as my personal therapy session and cry to these girls. Because
yeah,
if it's, we're all meeting under, the name of God and Bible study, they can't be like, all right, bitch, like, you're
yeah,
psycho. They're gonna have to embrace me with
yeah,
love in the name of God.
yeah, exactly.
And I, that day, I can't remember the scripture, but it just spoke so loudly to me. So then I started going regularly, and I've just loved the connection I made with these girls, yourself included. And I don't know why, I just assumed Jess knew everybody, but apparently not. But
No.
that's really awesome. And then I want to talk about home church, which is our church now. And I love saying that. I love saying like
Yeah,
our church and our pastor, and like, not pastor, um,
yeah,
seasoning.
seasoning girl.
I did not catch that. If you didn't say anything that day, I would not have caught that.
I was like, bro,
But
it's ceasing, not seasoning.
I would not have caught it.
Mexicans, we have those little words that throw us up.
So yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about that and how that got started. So I know it did get started at Pastor O and Lady Rose house as a Bible study. So how did that, who were the OGs and how did that come about?
Yeah, so this was when, just stopped doing the Bible study. So then I was like Bible study lists, and I was like, okay, like God, at the time, my husband and I were still going, my fiance at the time, we're still going through it. And so I was like, man, I really need this community. And like, I really want my fiance and I to like be around young adults, married couples, because we were planning to get married. And I was like, we really need people who can be like good examples and like not only give us like worldly advice, like, all of our friends tend to have bias because they're our friends, so they're telling us kind of what we want to hear. And I wanted more accountability, maybe like some mentors or like young adults, couples that could, meet my husband and be like a good influence on both of us. And so Chris and Marla, bless their hearts.
Love them.
They were TG too. And Marla had told me, and Chris had told me, like, hey, come out to this Wednesday Bible study. It's co-ed, but it's pretty sick. And I remember being like, okay, like, I'm so used to Thursday nights, not Wednesday nights. So, like making excuses like,
yeah,
oh, okay, it's not at the gym, so now I got to go out of my way to go to it. Like, so I couldn't make it the first couple times, but then I was like, no, like I've been praying for this, and now it's another opportunity just like the last, and I need to take advantage of it. So I went, and it was way more people than I had expected. It was like 40 people in that house, and I was like, I don't know anyone here except for Chris and Marla, and they were running late. So I feel like I'm pretty like a people person. So I just came in, I said hi, and I sat down, and I was kind of nervous because I didn't know anybody, but I was like, whatever, like they can't judge me. I'm here for a reason.
When was that? Do you remember when you first started going?
I know that it was probably like 3 months ago.
Oh, so still like relatively recent.
Yeah.
Because it feels like, I don't know. I thought it felt like you knew them forever. When by the time, my first time, Pastor Ash was like, "Oh hi, I'm Oscar. This is my home. Rochelle and I, blah blah blah." And he was like, "Who invited you?" Right? And I was like, "Oh, Cass." And then it just I don't know why I thought you guys like knew each other for forever as well.
No.
But I think that just still goes to show how strong knit the community is.
Yeah, and I remember leaving the first time from there, and I was like, yo, this was fire. I just liked how like real and like raw. My husband is trying to distract me right now. Do you want to hop on this call?
No.
Okay. It was so real. It was so raw. The people were like, I don't know. I don't know what I expected, because growing up in the church, like Bible studies are very proper, and like it's very like it resembles like a service at church, and like I'm more of a down to earth, chill, come as you are type person, and that's how everybody is. And so I was like, man, so I kept coming back, and then I eventually got my husband to come out, and he really enjoyed it, and so I was like, man, this feels like home. And then I think the Bible studies were getting so many people that Ro and Oscar, they have been mentoring under other pastors, because they eventually wanted to open up their own church. They just never knew the right time. So I think once the Bible study, we kept inviting people, and it kept getting bigger and bigger. They're like, oh man, we have enough people to start a church. And I think that's how, I think about a month or a month or two after I decided to keep going is when they opened up the church. And I was like, oh, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. The first day I was like, this is a lot of people.
Yeah.
And but it was so warm, and it was so welcoming. And yeah, I was on prep the first few times I went, so I was like, and then I wasn't as consistent, because girl, sometimes on prep I was just way too tired. I just could not find the strength to drive there and like be present for God and stuff. Definitely. But I kind of like what you said. I do like that it was such a chill environment, and I think going to Jess's women's Bible study kind of eased me into this co-ed Bible study, because I think if I didn't go to that, I don't know if I would have kept going because it was pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
But I actually knew a lot of people from Justice Bible Study, like you, Marla, Ari, Ali, so I was, and Erica. So like I knew a good handful of girls.
Yeah.
And then it was nice to see all of your guys' significant others. You guys are so cute, and I just think it's like I love that kind of, well, not all of you guys, but most of you guys are, soulmates
Yeah.
and faith mates.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I love that. Um, so the church got started, and um, and you're very
Involved.
involved in, yes, involved in this church. So how did this church get started? How do you even start a church?
Oh man. Well, Oscar, his full-time job is is like he works for the bank, so he does a lot of like big loans and deals with a lot of like rich people, I guess you could say, or people who bring in like have
Nice.
businesses and stuff. So like he already knew how to like set it up on the like admin side.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
So he did all that he needed to do, like name branding, like the actual church name, and like
Yeah.
what it would look like to rent out a spot, and like everything, all the fees and stuff associated with that. So I felt like he was kind of good on that. There's no, I feel like every church builds it, they're just learning as they go, honestly, and that's what we did. Like, we all kind of, not all of us, but we have spent a significant time in church, and it's like, okay, well, we need a building, we need
Yeah.
to love God, and we need to love others, and just make everybody feel accepted. And that was basically it. And like, okay, once we got the building, it's like, all right, well, everyone enjoys like the music service. I know that I am led by worship music all the time. Like that's
Yeah.
how I like get into, like, music is powerful. It's how people get into their feelings. You can listen to music that will make
Yes.
you like sad, mad, pumped up for the gym. So like, okay, like we just need a couple of songs, and then we're gonna give like a word, and then we're gonna call it a day, pray, and go home. So I feel like that was it.
And you sound great, by the way, Cass. I did not know you have a voice like that.
Nobody
Did you
does.
did you sing in church before this one?
Yeah, so actually, I don't have a lot of fears, but one of my fears is like public singing, ironically. And it's because I don't know, I'm just shy. I don't like to be like the center of attention. I'm outgoing, but I'm
Mhm.
shy. It's weird. A lot of people don't know, and a lot of people didn't know that I sang even before this. Like, not even my husband. Like, that's how much I
Oh,
don't
wow.
like. None of my friends knew it. Like, could sing, and it's funny because I did choir from like elementary to high school. I sang solos in high school.
Oh, wow.
There's footage out there somewhere of me on YouTube. I know it. Um,
Now
but
I'm gonna have to YouTube you and insert a little clip into this
I'll send
pod.
I'll send you me singing at my graduation. But
Oh, nice. Yes, please do.
yeah, so I was always super scared to sing. I don't know, just it's like that. Like, I always knew that I can hold a tune, but
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not no Ariana Grande or Mariah Carey, And I always, before home church, I was going to like my dad's church a little bit and the rock church, and I always would be like, man, Lord, like if I could have one gift, like I wish I could like have a super good voice so that I could like, I would love to sing in church, but I'm just too shy and I don't feel equipped. Like you hear all these beautiful singers in church, and you're like, okay, I'm decent, but I'm not like good like that. So I always kind of like dumb down my, I guess, abilities, imposter syndrome, like, oh, you're not that good compared to like people who sing in the church. So I'm more of like a backup vocalist. Like I can carry a tune and harmonize a little bit. And
No,
so
I
I,
disagree. Because
I
last
know,
service, you three girls were rotating, and I didn't realize like you guys were taking turns taking leads. But I love that, like, because you guys all sound different as lead
yeah,
singers with like the two different the I don't know, the backup singers. So it's such a nice dynamic, and I think you sound great. Like, no, you don't sound like
yeah,
Mariah Carey or Ariana Grande, but they don't
yeah,
sound like each other. Like you have your own voice, and
yeah.
yeah, be confident in it, Cass. Like you sound great. I was telling your mom too. I was like, I didn't know she sang.
Yeah,
I was
I'm
like,
more like
Cass
a
has a
backup singer.
voice.
But that's like so it's like another answered prayer. So God answered my first prayer by bringing me to a women's group. Then He answered the other prayer by bringing me amongst young adults and who are strong in the faith. And there's married couples, and that was another answered
Yeah.
prayer. And I always told God, like, man, if I could sing like that, I would totally sing in church. And um, Hannah, my friend Hannah, we went to the same school together. We grew up both Seventh Day Adventist, very similar.
Oh, wow.
We went to the private school K through 12 together,
Oh,
and
wow.
we sang in choir together. So she knew I could sing. So when she started singing, and she was like, "You better come sing with us. Like, I know you can sing." So she kind of tugged me into doing it with her.
Yeah.
Because I didn't just volunteer. Like she was like, "Oh, you know, Cass can, he's like, oh, Oscar and Ro, you know, Cass can sing, right?" And they're like, "What? You can sing?" And I was like, "Oh."
Well, I'm
But
glad she did that.
yeah, I feel like that was just
That's
another like
awesome.
answered because I was like, man, I always like I guess like idolize. I know it's not like good to idolize things, but I always idolized the people who would sing in church, and I was like, man, that's so cool. I wish that I could do that one day.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing it, so I feel like the Lord really put it upon my heart to just get uncomfortable and do something I was like super fearful of doing, and I love it. And I still get nervous every single Sunday, but I think it's like when I'm up there singing, it's like it doesn't matter, and it just comes out, and I like feel so fulfilled
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. I can definitely tell like all three of you girls were just singing from the heart, like the diaphragm, and
Yeah, for
it,
real.
it was like as vocally beautiful as it was like emotional and passionate.
Yeah.
Um, I really like live worship music. I feel like when I
Same.
listen to it on Spotify, sometimes it's not the same. Because I actually listen to worship music like on my way to church. Um, that may or may not be the only time, I'm not gonna lie. Um, but I love like the live worship music. The few times I went to the rock church, the singers there are really great as well.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm looking at you, and I've been staring at that very beautiful picture in the background of you and your husband. You said that was also one thing you really prayed about to God,
Yeah.
and you wanted to find a Bible group that had similar, young couples and stuff. I know
Hmm.
we talked about it briefly, but are you comfortable sharing, your relationship with your husband,
Yeah.
and the walk through his faith? So I know you guys how long, when did you guys meet? How long we were together? How long you guys been married? Let's give
Well,
the whole background.
we met in I want to say 2012 or 13 because I worked
Oh,
at 24
shit.
Fitness front desk. So you meet everybody when you work at a gym. So he would come play basketball, and I was dating somebody at the time, and he was dating somebody at the time. So we were just friends. Like I would
Mm-hmm.
see him often. And then he ended up breaking up with his girlfriend, and not too long after I broke up with my boyfriend, not correlated at all or planned or
Yeah.
anything. And I guess he had showed interest in me, and I basically rejected him. I curved him for 2 years because he wasn't my type. I didn't like him at all. I promise you, it wasn't like love at first sight. I didn't like him. I didn't. It's not rude, but I'm like real. I didn't find him attractive. I felt like he wasn't my type. And at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 2.5 years older than him, so at the time I was slowing down my partying, and he was just picking up.
Okay.
Um, so I was just kind of like, it's not attractive to me, like a
Yeah.
man who's in the club or in TV every single weekend getting drunk with his friends and like I
Girl.
don't know. It wasn't, yeah. I was like, yeah, that's not the move for me anymore. Like I'm kind of past that now.
Yeah.
And so we were just friends, and I wouldn't date him. So he's like, all right, well, do you want to go grab food? And I'm like, why, yes, I love food. Who doesn't?
I love food.
I want free food for sure. Like y'all can buy me food. And he worked at Sprouts, so he used to hook it up with like fat sandwiches, extra avocado.
Oh man, those sprout sandwiches are so
Dude,
good.
good. And we always
They're
like going
so good.
now to Sprouts. Like it's just like a
Nice.
thing. But when he grew up Catholic, and he stopped going to church when his grandpa passed away, like, around his birthday, and it was very sensitive because he used to go to church with him all the time. Like he went to communion as a Catholic and the whole 9 yards, and his parents go to church still, but he kind of fell away from the faith. So it's kind of like me. Like he said he was Catholic, but then he's like, "Oh, I'm Catholic, but I kind of I kind of like the Christian view a little bit more, but I don't really claim anything. I believe that there's a God, but he wasn't
Yeah.
practicing. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't go to church or anything. And I told him, and he would always ask me like, why won't you give me a chance? Why won't you date me? And I was like, honestly, like, I'm not the best example of a Christian myself. And I said, but I
Mm-hmm.
do know that I want to marry someone, a man of God, a man of faith, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
be a woman of faith. And I feel like I'm not gonna like budge on that. Like, that's very important to me and my family. Like, if I have kids, like, and you're Catholic and I'm Christian, and are they gonna be Catholic? I was like, just to avoid my preference is I want like a Christian man of God who's gonna pray with me when times get rough, and who's gonna go to church with me and not be there because of me, but you're there because you have your own relationship with God. You know,
And you told them that very upfront, like
up
in the
front, like
beginning. In the beginning.
as friends, as the beginning. I said,
When he said, "Why won't you date me?" You let that
yes,
be known. Nice.
yeah.
I love that.
And I told him, and I said, and not only that, I was like, you're not really my type, and I was like, and you drink like way too much, which I'm not like judging you, but like I already been there, done that, and like I'm
Yeah.
so down, and it's not. I was like, it's not attractive to my man's like in the club each week, like not that I was considering dating
Yeah.
him, but like giving him perspective, and I said, maybe you want a girl who wants to party with you and all this stuff like that, but it's not the move for me. So we just
Yeah.
became friends, and we would like friends. He would tell me about the girls he was dating, or the guys that I was like interested in, and it was just what it was. He had to settle for my friend, and
For 2 years. So you
yeah,
friend zoned him for 2 years.
yes. So
Okay.
and then we kind of went through ups and downs in our friendship because he really wanted to date me, and I was like, I'm not, like, I just got a 4-year relationship. I'm not ready. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want you to be a rebound. I don't want to hurt your feelings. Like, I'm not in it. Like, I'm not all there. I'm still hurt and like working through my own stuff. Um, and then I started hanging out with him, and I saw a different side. Like, I definitely judged him. Like, he was always out and partying, but when I was spend time with him, he had a big heart for people, and he was goofy, and he was funny, and he was very like chill, and we just vibed. Like, and he even told me, he's like, he told me as a friend at Starbucks in here in National City, he said, I'm gonna marry you as friends. And I was like,
Oh.
ripping, homeboy. And I was like,
Oh boy.
yeah, I was like, in my little ghetto stage, I was like, you're gonna tell me what I'm about to do? Like, you're tripping.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
We're
flashing her
married
ring,
now.
by the way. If
Yeah,
you're not
we're
watching the
married.
video.
And I was like, well, how are you, sister? And he's like, dude, our chemistry is like, you can't deny the chemistry that we have. We just vibe together, which I couldn't like say we didn't vibe, because we vibed like really well together.
Yeah.
And I think I just started spending more time with him, and I saw him for what people didn't see from him, you know.
Hmm.
And then I started, like, I guess, like, loving his character, like who he really was, like when he wasn't like partying and stuff. And I
Yeah.
slowly started developing feelings for him. And then we would like go out. Then we would go out together and like drink and stuff. And he asked me probably like a million times to be his girlfriend, and I would always reject him, and we would laugh it off because he knew like,
We would laugh it off.
Yes, and then as I started developing feelings for him, I didn't tell him because sometimes I have a problem with being vulnerable, and actually admitting that I was wrong, and I did like him, and I did have feelings for him, and he was already like kind of talking to other girls at the time, so I was just like, well, I'm not sure myself. I don't even know what this is. I was trying to figure it out, and so one day I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna tell him that like I kind of like him or whatever. And so one day we got like really drunk, and we went back to my house, and we're like messing around or whatever. And he was like, "Do you want to be my girlfriend?" And I was like, "You're so stupid. No, like I don't want to be your girlfriend."
You
Anyways,
still said no.
yeah, I still said no. And I would think I was really fighting myself, because like I was fighting with like, I want a man of God, and I don't want someone who parties, and I'm out here partying with him. Like, what kind of example? Like, I'm like putting my foot in my own mouth,
Yeah.
And so the next day, this is literally how we got together in 2015.
Dang, as well.
I texted him. He was at Sprouts. He was working, and I was like, "Hey," I was like, "Were you being serious about what you asked me last night?" And he's like, "What did I ask you last night?" Because obviously we were like drunk or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, to be your girlfriend for like the millionth time." And he was like, "Oh yeah." He was like, "I was just kidding because I already know like I don't have a chance anyway." Like, you know.
Oh.
And so this is literally how we like started dating. I was like, "Well, I'm down if you're still down." That's what I
I'm down if you're down.
literally, I was like, "Yo, like, I'm down if you're down." And he's like, "Are you being serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, bring me a sandwich, fool, and we'll talk later." And that's how we
Yeah.
started dating.
Wow. And that was 8 years ago.
Yeah, so we dated for about 6.5, and he had asked me like, "What do you want life to look like?" And I was like, "Well, I want my degree first. I don't want to.
Hmm.
I want a degree first." And I said, "I want a house first. I don't give me a ring if you can't provide a house for me." And I said,
Ooh.
"Yeah." And I said, "I don't really care about the ring. Like, I want us to establish a foundation, so I want a house." It's like I feel like getting a house together screams more than a ring for me.
Yeah.
And
You
so
are like wise beyond your years. Like I would have never like
I
thought of
think
that. That's
I
so
think my parents
smart.
really like my mom really tried to tell me to do it like not the way she did it, you know. And
Yeah.
so I felt like I was wise because my parents instilled like these things into me young, like what does a ring mean if he can't even like keep the lights on or you can't even create a home with this person, you know.
Wow.
So I
Yeah,
said I
I
want to graduate, I want a home, and then I said I want a ring because you're not getting any kids unless I have a ring.
right. That's just
And
on principal reasons.
yeah,
Yeah.
1000%. And so I graduated in 2021. We had already had the house. He got us the house, and we
Yes,
moved.
and it's a nice house that you built a dope ass home gym in. I saw it on
Yeah,
your Instagram today. It looks so good.
yeah, girl, come by anytime.
Yes. Where are you?
I'm in National City, so I'm like right off the five by like the Navy
Oh,
base.
nice.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Navy
nice,
base.
nice.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of, and then we were in the house. I graduated, and at my graduation party, he proposed to me, and that was
Oh.
June of 2021, and then we got married October 13th, which is coming up a year being
Oh
married
my
already.
goodness. Oh, happy early anniversary.
Yeah, thank you. So we've been together
Wow.
for 8 years now.
Um, how long were you guys together before you guys moved into the house together?
We moved in 2019, so we were together for 4 years.
Okay. You
It's kind of
know,
crazy, and I had lived with him for 3 years out of that. Well, actually 4 years, because at the time I had a lot of family staying with me, and I had the bigger room with the California king bed. And at the time, we had my aunt, her boyfriend, her two teenage daughters, and one was pregnant, and they took
oh,
over my room, so I was sleeping on the couch. So he told his dad, and they're very hospitable people, so he had two extra bedrooms. And after 2 weeks of dating, I moved in with him and his family.
oh, wow.
Yeah, so I had already been living with him and his family for a couple of years, so I already knew what it was like to live with this man.
Oh, wow. I mean, 2 weeks together, but you've known him for a long time. But how long did you live with this family and how was that?
Oh man, probably like 3 years, and it was definitely a learning curve. Like, I feel like our families are different in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Um, from like how I grew up eating to how we handle family conflict to how we talk to each. It was like almost night and day, to be honest. It was a really big adjustment for me. And I'm a couple years older than him too, so after a while I kind of felt like, man, we can't just keep living with our parents. Like, we need our
Right,
own place.
right. You know, in learning about, your guys' love story, I just think, you are so wise and also very brave because there's a lot of girls who are like kind of scared to tell to tell a person straight up like, hey, this is the reason why I don't want to date you. They don't want to like hurt their feelings or they're just not used to being straight up with someone like that. But I think that's very commendable. And I think you also had your priorities very straight, because like I know a lot of girls who definitely, the ring is first and foremost the most important thing. But you knew what your priorities were. You knew you wanted a house, someone who is able and willing to, care and provide for you. Because I think there's a lot of men now who may be able, but they're not necessarily like willing. Because I definitely know, sometimes a couple, if there's like a large income disparity, but they're still splitting things 50-50. And I feel like that for me is like kind of not okay. But at the same time, like if both people are making the similar amount of money and in the same financial situation, then they need to get their priorities straight. Like what's important. And so I think that's very smart. And I know, like you said, you guys were partying, and Faith was also kind of, one of a contention.
Mm-hmm.
And, your husband now is also very involved in home church. He's also at the Bible study. But I know that was also a journey itself, right?
Oh, girl, that was so ghetto.
That was so ghetto.
I like stress every time I look back, and I'm like, man, we've really made it this far. Yeah, it was a struggle because Arod didn't start going to church until I want to say 2 or 3 months before we got married. And he didn't like I felt like he dealt with his. I didn't know for a very long time that he was depressed and going through stuff because he never talked about it as like, he was brought up like, you want something done, get it done by yourself. You're a man, don't cry,
Yeah.
don't talk about your feelings. And I didn't know that he was going through all this because he wouldn't share. I only knew because he was projecting like a bad attitude or just being really like rude, or like I just knew something was going on. And he was started drinking more often, like kind of resorting to like how I first met him. And
Yeah.
our relationship really, I want to say, we lived in this house in 2019, so we've been here for almost about 4 years. I want to say about three of those 3 of those years were really rough because it kind of felt like we were roommates. We were living two different lives, and I was
Oh,
getting my shit together, um, faith wise, and that's why I said my journey with God really started at 30. And that I think I moved out of his parents' house at 29 because it was getting really rough for us. Like he was just, having people over. His way of relaxing was drinking, and
yeah.
I was kind of off by that. I found out I have liver damage when I was 30, so I had to start
Oh,
slowing
shit.
down. And I just felt like as I was slowing down and kind of like cool off the drinking part, like don't mind, I still like to have a drink every now and then, but I can't drink how I used to because of obvious reasons of my liver. But
Yeah.
it was really putting a gap into us because I was a full time student, I was full time working, I was interning, and I felt like all he did was work, play basketball, drink on the weekends, and like I felt like everything that was important to me, he didn't see like value in. Like he's like, "Why are you always doing like a fitness challenge?" Or like he would want to watch TV instead of he's like, "I'll wait for you to get done reading your book." Or he would really kind of criticize like everything I did, like if it was like insignificant, like okay, well, can you tell me when you're done with like your walk? Because I was doing 75 hard at the time. And he's like,
Yeah.
so we can go do something. And I felt like we're so independent of each other that it was kind of like we were roommates at one point versus like in an intimate relationship with each other because we
Yeah.
were walking such different paths. And I was like, man, like I've been trying to get this man to go to church and pray with me for like almost 5 years at this point, and it wasn't working. So I had like my own revelation, like, do I even want to be in this relationship? I was struggling staying true to myself and my faith, but we have a house together, we're engaged. Like there was so many things going on, and I remember reading a specific devotional that said like, if you with your own fleshly heart as a human love somebody with all your heart, how much more does God love that person? Because God's love is it's not based off condition, whether you're doing what I want you to or you like what I like. It's unconditional love, and I feel like we can only love conditionally sometimes.
Yeah.
And I read that sometimes if it's not working, you need to leave that person in God's hands and stop worrying about them, stop trying to fix them, stop trying to change them. Let God work the way he needs to work in their lives, and you just worry about your walk. So I was so concerned about his walk and faith that I was putting my walk of faith on the back burner because I was,
Yeah.
and it was coming to a dead end every single time. So I just was like, you know what, for about a good year and a half, I was like, I'm not even going to worry about you. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm not going to ask you to go to church. I'm not going to ask you to pray for me. I'm just going to pray for you silently. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to start reading books. I'm going to try to fuel my body with healthy, like, I just wanted to be healthy overall. And that's what I did. And
Yeah.
that was probably when A-Rod probably hit his rock bottom himself. He hit
Okay.
rock bottom, and it wasn't until he hit rock bottom and depression, and we went through like issues of like infidelity, like drinking. I found out just different things that he was doing when he was drunk, and that was really hard. And I feel
Yeah.
like cheating is a different definition to everybody, but I think cheating is entertaining people, lusting for people, looking at things you shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he cheated, I cheated in my own ways, and it was just very like justifiable in our own heads, because when you're hurt, it's like, okay, well, he's hurting me, so I'm gonna hurt her, like, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? So I just
You know,
felt like I need.
yeah, I really like what you said about, the different levels of cheating. Some people think like cheating is only physical cheating, but there's very much so emotional cheating.
It was a lot of
Like
emotion.
yeah. And I think, like you said, you guys were kind of living different lives. So maybe at the time it didn't quite feel like that. It's like, like you said, just quote unquote justifiable because it was like, oh, I'm not physically with this person and,
Mhm.
we're not really emotionally connected. And I think it was probably just a desperate cry for each other from both of you guys. Um, because, obviously you guys are made it through it. You guys are married. I see you guys. You guys are so cute. And I love that you guys are both so part of, so like open and honest with your guys' relationship and the struggles that you guys went through. So you were saying A-Rod hit his rock bottom, and then that I'm guessing that's when he started going to the Bible study with you.
Yeah, so I would say within the 7 months before our actual wedding, I just started finding out things, and it was like repeated and repeated, and then I would tell him like, "Why are you doing this?" Like, it was just like a
Yeah.
whole roller coaster, and he was just like, "I don't know, I'm just going through like," and our thing is we never had good communication. That was the number one thing that hindered our relationship,
Mhm.
because I never brought anything up because I was always just used to carrying it inside, and he did the same thing. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like we couldn't resolve anything because every time I wanted to talk and get vulnerable, he wouldn't. It was like talking to a brick wall. So when two people don't talk, it's like nothing's going to get resolved. So I didn't know anything he was going through. He didn't see how he was treating me. I didn't see how I was treating him. So for one time he told me, like, you're so independent and you can do everything on your own. You make your own money, all this stuff. Then why do you need me? And I had to really sit with myself, like, dang, like, I'm not even letting him be a man in the relationship. Like, I'm being a man for myself, and I'm being the woman, and I'm doing everything, and I'm not giving him the respect as the man in the house. And so I felt like it wasn't just what he was doing. I had to really take a step back and be like, how am I contributing to the problem? And I didn't realize that I was, because I was so obsessed with like what he was doing wrong and what he
Yeah.
wasn't doing, that I failed to see that I was hurting my own relationship as well. So like I'm glad that, and that was a slap in my face, because when you think you're doing all you can be doing, you find out
Yeah.
that you're the actual problem. It's a really humbling moment, and it's
Hey,
like, oh
cute
my
Taylor Swift.
god, yeah, oh my gosh. So
Wow, what you said then there honestly really kind of hit home for a second when you were like, oh, A-Rod said, you're so independent, you do all this and that. What do you even need me for? And that's actually pretty crazy because I've most definitely been told that. But unlike you, I just kind of got offended. Like, well, if you manned up more, if you did more, if
yeah.
whatever. I didn't have the same introspect that you said at that time, or what you said just now, because I was still very um, you know, in my masculine phase, I guess, and that's something I'm trying to work on. through, through the church, through the Bible, which is why I think I'm super excited for our book club. And I have it
Yeah.
on Audible as well. And I love that the book is also a workbook because I really want to, embrace my softer side and my femininity as well, because I think, I too have been very independent, kind of out of necessity, being an only child,
Right.
being an immigrant, being teased growing up. You were teased for being the preacher's daughter and this and that. I think you kind of just have to grow tough skin. But,
Yeah.
I think through the church and, oh shoot, and kind of like what you were saying, that God's love is just so unconditional. I think that allows me to soften up and feel safe to soften up, because at the end of the day, I'm just like, yeah, it's cool. God's got me. It's okay. You could be vulnerable. Like,
Yeah, and I do
man,
want to say that like during that year and a half that I really had to find myself and like just focus on me versus focusing on him. Believe me, we have been together for a long time. I tried to like, well, if you would man up, if you would clean the house, maybe I would want to spend time with like if you would do
yeah,
this, you would do that. If you would spend quality time with me, not with your friends on the like. I tried all that and it never got me anywhere. So it's kind of like, well, if that's not working, you do the same thing over and over again. It's called insanity. It's like the cheesiest like line everybody knows, And I felt like
yeah,
I was truly transformed by God's love by just focusing on myself, because I wouldn't have handled it the way that I did more maturely at the end if I hadn't worked on myself, worked on my responses, worked on
yeah,
keeping my mouth closed and just listening to what the other person was saying without responding right away, because I was all of that. Like I'm a firecracker. Like I'm like, well, step it up, man up. Like why do I gotta?
yeah,
And I tried that and it didn't work. So what actually worked is the hardest thing to do is keeping my mouth shut, actually listening, try not to be
yeah,
offended, try not to offend, like don't say you. Like I really had to just take my accountability, and it was really hard to do. It took me a year and a half to even like get to the mental place of reading my Bible and like really focusing on myself and learning that in the Bible it's like the Lord tells you like hold your tongue,
yeah,
listen, don't be so quick to speak, like fools are quick to speak, like. And I really had to dive into the word and like what does it mean to be a good wife, what does it mean to be a good person, a good woman, a smart mature person. And I felt like I only found that when I started asking God to shut my mouth, asking God to get rid of these thoughts. Like because I clearly couldn't do it myself for many years. And it
yeah,
wasn't until I started praying and reading the word and asking, truly surrendering, like kind of how you said you were crying on the floor, asking, like, I need help. Like, that was me. I was like, Lord, I don't know what to
yeah,
do. I can't fix my relationship. I can't, I'm crying every day. Like, I feel like I'm in this by myself. I'm about to get married. My marriage is failing. Like, my fiance is cheating on me. It was so much. And I feel like people will surrender to God when they hit rock bottom, because at the
yeah.
bottom, the rock is God. Like God is our foundation.
Oh, that's strong, Cass.
Yeah.
Ooh, wow.
And it's not just me as a pastor's kid, like, oh well, it worked for you, it won't work for me. No, it can work for anyone who is willing to surrender, literally truly surrender and say, like, I don't have my shit together and I need God. And my husband, that is exactly how he came to God. He hit his rock bottom. I basically
Hmm.
told him, like, hey dude, like you're the same person I met 7 years ago and I don't envision my life with the man that you are right now, because
Yeah,
you're comfortable with being complacent, you're comfortable with not growing, you're comfortable, and like I don't feel supported by you through anything. Like I don't want to spend my life with. I literally told
yeah,
him like 3 months before the wedding, like you still don't go to church, you're still not praying for me, and you're depressed. And I was like, you're not doing anything to get out of that depression. And I told him I love you, but I've done this before. I've flipped backwards for my last boyfriend and it didn't work, and like I chose them over me. But I was like, I'm choosing me and I'm choosing my faith. And like what I told you like 9 years ago, like
yeah,
if you weren't a man of God, I do not want to be and it was my fault for staying so long, because it's only natural for us to want to fix people and work things out.
yeah.
And
And
And I
let's be
think,
real, once you're in love, you're in love. Like,
yeah,
the boundaries and the get kind of blurred. You're just like, oh, but he's just so cute though. He's so handsome though. And so yeah.
I just
But I'm
think it's
glad
about,
you stood
yeah,
firm, even 3 months before your wedding, at the end of the day, like you stood firm to,
oh, girl, I was
your day
studying.
one.
I was like, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to call off this big wedding because I'm so
Woo.
embarrassed. Like, but I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? I've done this before, and it didn't work the last time. I tried to give it my all and like put my faith on the back burner, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'll be depressed for a little bit. Like, I have a whole
Yeah.
house with this man. I'll have to go live with my parents at 32 years old and figure
Mm-hmm.
it out. And there was all
Mm-hmm.
these things running through my head, but like at that point, I felt like I was seasoned enough in my walk with God that I was like, you know what? Like, it's going to be fine. It's going to suck
Yeah.
before it gets better. And I had that conversation with him, and I don't know what happened. He was at his rock bottom. And I'm telling you, it's only when you hit rock bottom that you like look up, and I felt like he was at his rock bottom. Our relationship was failing. He was depressed. He was losing friends. He was drinking every weekend. And I told him, I said, well, these are your three options. Either you go see a therapist, you download the Bible app, or you start going to church with me. And I said, but if those are not any of your options and this is like done, there's nothing more that I can help. I can't help you. Like, you have to help yourself.
Yeah.
And
And then what was the option that he chose?
he chose first and foremost to. I told him a lot that night. I basically made him feel like he was this small, not like vindictively, but I was just
Mm-hmm.
expressing my feelings and like how I wasn't supported. And um, he basically said like, I've never had anyone talk to me like that. Like, he's like, you made me feel like I was not a man. He's like, I never felt so low from a person in my life. But he said I was angry, and he told me later, weeks later, that he was going to break up with me that night because he was so offended by
Yeah.
what I said. It was kind of like, well, if you don't like it, there's a door kind of thing. That's kind of how
Right.
his response to that attack was. And I said, well, why didn't you break up with me? And he was like, because I knew that I was acting out of anger and I wasn't really sitting with I wasn't listening to what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
I was only hearing what you were saying. And girl, it's probably the power of the Lord, but he basically said, like, you're right, and I'm sorry, and that I've been taking advantage of you, and like, I'm gonna try for us, and I'm gonna try because I need something. Like, something is missing in my life, and I don't know what it is, but I'm willing to try to figure it out with you. And so he ended up downloading the Bible app, and in the Bible app, there's devotionals and there's devotionals for men and depression. There's like different topics. And so
Mm-hmm.
you don't even have to get like really scripture with it. Like, you can just pick a guided topic and you can just read through it. And he did that for a couple.
Or it'll read to you too.
Yeah,
If you don't want to sit down and read, the
you ain't
Bible
gotta
app
read
will
it.
read to you.
Now you ain't gotta read it, boo. It'll read to you.
Yes, yes. I love that feature.
Yeah, because we're busy, whatever, and sometimes
Yeah.
we just have to listen. So he ended up doing that for a couple months, and then I had stopped asking him to. I would ask him every Sunday
Mm-hmm.
for like years to go with me, and I had just stopped asking him. And I think after like a month or so of him in the Bible app, he's like, "Are you?" He was like, "Are you going to church today?" And I was like, "I am." And he's like, "Maybe I'll tag along with you." Me trying to like show my excitement, like I'm trying to like keep a real poker face, and I'm like, okay. And he ended up going with me, and then he ended up going with me the next week. And eventually he was like, oh, I'm excited to go to church tomorrow. And
I
I'm
love
telling you
that.
that transformation doesn't happen in that sort of a time unless he was truly surrendering in that room by himself as he
Yeah.
read. And I swear, I don't, people might think it's dumb, but like, the love of God is real. And if you really surrender, he can change your life like in a blink of an eye. It's just so beautiful. Like, I'm telling you, I do not recognize the man that I have here in front of me. Like, a year ago, he was a totally different person. Like, I wasn't gonna marry him, and
Yeah.
like, I can confidently say like, this was the man that I prayed for 9 years ago.
Oh, I love
It's crazy.
that.
It's
No
so
matter
crazy.
how many times I hear that story, it will never get old, and it literally gives me goosebumps every time. Like I think that's such a beautiful story, especially the fact that, A-Rod took the initiative to go to church with you after years of nagging. At the end of the day, like, you let him make that decision for himself. And I like that, when he hit his rock bottom, it wasn't like you have to go to church. Like, you gave him the secular option of seeing a therapist to help
Yeah.
him with his problems. And I think that's what's so beautiful. And I just love that, you and home church is always just preaching love and unconditional love. Like, hey, God loves this person as they are unconditionally. So who am I to try to change them or scorn them? Like, I have to accept them for who they are. And if necessary, create boundaries for my own
Right.
sanity, but still, love them in light and love them as God's children. And I just love that. Like, and I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
why I
just
feel so safe, exploring my faith with you and growing my faith with home church, because it's just really all about love. And it's because I've gone to churches where it's almost like scared, like, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, like,
yeah,
yeah, I don't need any more messages of me going to hell. Like, and I just
yeah,
love that, like, you and home church and pastors always just preaching love for ourselves, love for thy neighbors, and all of our relationships.
yeah. It's just it's very sad because I like Pastor Oscar says like Christians are literally the worst representation of God or can be because we get so wrapped up in like the Bible says don't do this and the Bible says don't do this, but it's like God, the greatest laws that God has is two of them. One is love God above all, and two, love others. Like, where did we get all these like you can't come to church because you're not wearing this, and it's just so sad. And like I really, if people watch this or hear this, and I just want to like let people know that it's like focus on your relationship with God and you won't have to give up anything. People are like, oh, when I'm Christian, I have to give up, I don't know, smoking weed, or I have to give up like doing this and that. And it's not even
Yeah.
about that. It's like when you're truly transformed, you will naturally not want to do these things. And I'm just
Hmm.
talking for myself. Like, there's things or stuff I'll listen to or stuff I used to watch or like conversations and gossip I used to be in. And it's like when you're truly transformed in your heart, stuff just grieves your soul. And you're like, wow, that's true change because I used to be all into this. And like now I'm just kind of like, no, I'm good. Like it doesn't benefit me in any way. It doesn't help me grow as a person. And I feel like it's just beautiful, like what you can
Yeah.
do if you really true love, like unconditionally loved by people.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful. I'm very happy to be, part of this community. And I think you answered my final question, which is, what advice would you have for people who are trying to explore their faith or want to grow their faith, but, not sure where to start or still a little hesitant? Um, and of course, I'll link home church's info in the bio below, because, like I said, people, it's a really safe community, and it's all about love. And as Cass said, it's very accepting. She's inked up, pierced up. Her husband's inked up. Our pastor's got some double
Yeah.
sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people from all walks of life, all backgrounds. So come as you are. But
Yeah, I
other than
just think
that,
that
what other advice would you have?
I just think that the most important thing is like reading the Bible because I feel like if like it's for let's put it into perspective, like if you have a friend or you have a best friend, it's like how did you guys become best friends? Well, you had to talk, you had to spend time with each other, you had to listen to each other, you had to put effort in to hang out, you have to put effort into conversations. Like you truly have to pay attention to this person and having a relationship with God is the same way. Like
Yeah.
there's no proper way to pray. You can be like, yo God, like this is what happened to my day. There's no proper way to pray. You just pray. Um and I would say reading the Bible, and I know there's many different versions, but if you download the Bible app, there's different versions, easy to hard, and like just
Hmm.
how A-Rod did, you can just pick guided devotionals based on like a topic that you want to learn on. So I think getting into the word and finding the community is so important. It's so hard to do things when you feel like you're the only one who's doing it. You're so confused. Even me, I grew up as a Catholic kid, but I don't know the whole Bible by heart. I like sometimes
Yeah.
people ask me questions and I'm like, I don't know, let me get back to you. It's not about being a Bible thumper and knowing everything. It's about knowing people who can guide and speak to you, people who can give you different perspectives and not make you feel like you're dumb because you don't know like
Yeah.
the difference between like the Holy Spirit and Jesus or God and different names and stories of the Bible. It's not about that. It's about becoming a part of a supportive community who really loves you and is willing. You guys can teach each other. Like a non-believer or a newbie can teach a seasoned believer something
Hmm.
new. It's all about community and support. So I would just say having a support system, getting into the Word, and not being scared to try something new. Like
Yeah.
I know you sat in front of church this past Sunday because I dragged you basically, but I feel like you need people like that. Like
Yeah.
you needed me to kind of get you into your comfort, and you trusted me enough to. It's all about building relationships, build quality
Yes.
relationships with people who might know a little bit more than you and are able to answer questions. And not everyone knows everything, but I just think having a community of people where you feel safe and not judged is like very important.
Yes. And I'll also put the Bible study information on Wednesdays as well. So, whoever listens or watches this, I'll put all of that information in the description box below. And like I said, both the Bible study is also co-ed. It's a very safe community and it's actually held at our pastor's house. So a lot more intimate. One thing I love that that pastor says is on Sunday he preaches and on Wednesday he teaches. So I'll put both of
Mhm.
those information in the description below. And we're already an hour and a half. I could talk to you
Crazy.
all night. I could literally talk to you all night, Cass. We didn't even get to your fitness stuff, but you are a personal trainer and you have your home gym. So where can people find you personally and professionally? Um, and I'll put our
Um,
church information so they can faith wise.
I,
But
I, yeah, thank you. I feel if you have social media, Instagram is probably the easiest way. You can like keep me out in case you don't like trust me. You could look at all my stuff. Be like, okay. But it's Keith on Instagram, or feel free to email me. Um, it's period CASAS at gmail.com. And of course, if you follow the church or if you get in contact with you, people who know you, I wouldn't mind
yes.
you sliding my contact information because I do help with the women ministry. So we don't have to get all biblical with it. If you just need to have some
Hmm.
answers, some questions answered, or if you have any questions about, I don't know, maybe something that I talked about that you're going through, like I'm always open to have coffee or a glass of wine, so don't judge. Um, talk
Yes.
about.
And I'll put all of Cass's information there as well, both her Instagram and her email. And yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, we also have a women's book club going on. Is going to be about Proverbs. So,
Mhm.
if you feel more, if you're a female and you feel more safe in a all woman community, we have that as well. And like she said, if we don't have to get super biblical, super deep. Even if you just want to come as a therapy session, we're here. We're going to embrace you. We're going to love you. So thank you so, so much for your time, Cass. Thank you for everything you share. So, how honest and transparent you were. And again, I'm so, so happy that, you invited me to this group and I found this community and, I'm very excited for all the stuff that's going on at the church and all the stuff that's going in my life, which, we talk about on Wednesdays and Sundays. So, thank you so much. Go
Yeah,
enjoy your Friday evening with your husband.
thank
And I
you.
will see you Saturday.
Tomorrow or Sunday or
Yes,
Monday. I might,
row.
yeah.
Yeah, Ro told me about Oscar's surprise party, so I'll see you
Yeah, yeah, I'll be there.
Saturday. Yeah, so this is gonna air after tomorrow, obviously. So yeah, so see, this is how close now we are. Literally, our pastor's wife is throwing him a surprise party and invited like the congregation.
Yeah, literally
So so talk
fun.
about community. Yes, we literally hang out like 3 or 4 days a week, and I love it.
Fun.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Cass, and I'll see you
for
in
having
person tomorrow. Bye.
me. Bye.